Hi everyone and welcome to my channel Opimation, and for those of you who are new to this channel, my name is OP. I'm an animator in the video games industry, and a few people have reached out and wanted my thoughts on all these massive layoffs that are happening in the industry now as we speak. Yesterday or a couple of days ago, I have friends who work at Fire Sprite that was under Sony. Massive layoffs there, EA as well. Obviously Activision Blizzard, Microsoft 1900 there. Riot, I have two friends at Riot Games who have still got their jobs, but massive layoffs there too. And this is something that is not new to me. I've lost my job 3 times in the industry. So I just wanted to share my views on this, and also I've done a bit of research on all these articles on internet, and let's just dive in and have a look at what's going on in the industry as we speak. So there's some quotes here from Riot which talk about, we're changing some of the bets we've made and shifting how we work across the company to create focus and move us towards a more sustainable future. People could question AI there, right? In the second sentence of his note, this is Dylan Jadeja, the CEO of Riot. He said that he marks off 2 squares from the recent games industry layoff bingo card: focus and sustainability. So he would waste little time filling in the 3rd square as he brought up the A word in 2 paragraphs. And then he goes on to say, as a CEO, I'm accountable for the changes we're making and where we're headed in the future. So here, what a lot of us don't get, as a current CEO and president for 6 years of Riot, Jadeja was responsible for how the company was run, and as we can infer from the earlier quote, Riot was being run by an unsustainable business that lacked focus. So when he talks about the unsustainable business and lacked focus, they were asking him, so how exactly? Well, he goes on to talk about how Riot doubled its headcount in just a few years while making a bunch of big bets. Investments haven't paid off. Right? This is what I'm getting from a lot of the articles. They're saying that during COVID, all these, as you know, with COVID, the jobs just went up in the gaming industry. And I think a lot of companies just betted that they can just get all this talent and people in, make all these projects and games, and I guess that just fell through, a lot of them, and they have to make cutbacks now. Some people are saying this is just the start of a crash, that 2024 is a crash we're going through as well. So there's things, I don't know, I don't really believe things from articles, I always think there's things going on in the background as they are, but there may be a bigger picture to this. But anyway, coming back to this article, so Riot Games say we've made the decision because it's a necessity, it's what we need to do in order to maintain long-term focus for the players. And then it goes on to say Riot simply doesn't have another move, it's been boxed in, it's in a strategically disadvantaged position. And then there's quotes here saying Riot management has not only run the ship aground, it put the company in a position where running the ship aground was the only option. And then we have another one, which is from mass layoffs are causing big problems in the video game industry. More than 1/3, I'll put all these articles down in the description so you can check them out as well. More than 1/3 of the video games development were impacted by layoffs in 2023, according to the new survey. With AI automation looming, the industry is facing an outflow of talent. This article here talks about, according to the survey conducted in 2023, 35% of developers were either laid off or had colleagues laid off at their company. Of those layoffs, it was quality assurance, QA, which seemed to be the most impacted. This reminds me a lot of when I was working in San Diego, and we had this, I was working for High Moon Studios at the time, and we had a little party we went to. It was a bowling party, and all the QA people were wearing t-shirts. We had to fancy dress. We didn't have to, but we did. And it was all for fun. And all the QA department had t-shirts on that said second-class citizens. Think about that. This is how they're treated in the industry. And it's not right, man, because people that don't have degrees or any qualifications, that's the one way you can get into the industry, QA. And I've known people who have got into QA who are lead designers, lead animators, animation directors, environment artists, and they're, I would even say that these Q&A workers are probably the most passionate about games. All they do is play games. So it's very sad to see how they're looked upon. And the other thing about the industry which kind of bothers me is, all these big companies like Blizzard, EA, I might not even get a job anymore when I'm saying this, but they have this mentality where they say, oh, you're privileged to work for us, right? But no, it isn't like that. You're privileged to have talented people like those talented guys working for you, making you billions of dollars. That's the privilege. We're not lucky. Those companies are lucky to have artists, because game developers, we're passionate people. We want to make these games. We put our heart and soul in it. And then you make all these games, and then afterwards you get laid off. You make the CEOs, the shareholders, billions and billions of pounds and dollars. On top of that, you get laid off. Now, what I could never understand about the game industry is you got so much money, you can't sustain your artists for 6 months. You can't sustain them for a year. You can sustain them for a year. Look at Google. They have days in their week where the employees just work on their own projects. Can't you do that for artists? What better place to have that than in the games industry? Think about that. What better place to have more creative free time for creative people so they can work on their own projects and maybe even make a game out of it that will help benefit the company even more, you know? So I never understood that part. Yeah, people say it's shareholders, they need their money. Personally, I think it's greed. This comes down to greed, all of this. You know, it's too much of that. You know, we need money, we need to cut costs. And there's not enough of taking care of the artist, in my experience. That's what I've gone through as well. You know, I've lost my job 3 times. I understand completely where these people are coming from. So, you know, that kind of stuff really pisses me off about the industry. I think there should be more respect for artists. You know, it's a massive industry in revenue, absolutely huge. Very small in development size of people, everyone knows each other, but massive in revenue. And there's a very good link I would put. I might even do the video as a reaction, and it's by this comedian Hassan. His surname escapes me now, but it's called The Dark Side of the Gaming Industry, and I'll do a reaction video to that. It's very good. But you know, I don't really understand that. But sorry, no, I'm going on a rant. But yeah, I never understood that part of the gaming industry where you can't just sustain your workers until the next project comes. 6 months, it could be a year. But you know, because what happens is you're getting rid of them, they're bringing new people in, training them up again. It's counterproductive. Why not keep them? But again, you know, it all comes down to money. You know, at the end of the day, as much as I hate to say it, it's a business. It's a business, and you know, I guess in the States, you know, the States is all about capitalism, and you know, it works, but only a few people get rich. The rest suffer, right? You give these massive CEOs or people who create these companies. I get the fact that they're creating these companies, they're creating jobs, and they get a tax break. I get that, because they're bringing in 200 people who are paying taxes, right? So let's let him off kind of thing, or let her off. But at the same time, you know, it's like this book I'm reading, Economic Hitman. And it talks about how Jeremy Perkins he worked for the US government. And then what he would do, he's the one who would go into these countries that had so much rich resources. And he would say to the people in the government, look, we're going to give you 200-300 million to just turn a blind eye. We're going to build our infrastructure, and we're going to take all your resources, but we're going to give you a little bit. We'll give you 200 million to just shut up and just let us take all the money and all the resources and sell it back to you at a cheaper price. Basically, a few people in government benefit, but the rest of the country suffers. And, you know, I kind of use that example as companies as well, right? You get a tax break, you got the workers in there, they make the game, they make the CEOs, shareholders billions. You know, we're talking a lot of money here, we're talking billions of pounds. And, you know, they make all the money and big layoffs happen. It seems very similar pattern to me. So anyway, that was going off on a rant. Sorry, mate. This is all unscripted. But yeah, no, going through these. Okay, so here's a question, right? Why are there so many layoffs in the gaming industry? Now I mentioned the COVID. The root cause for layoffs in any industry is most universally insufficient revenue. I doubt that gaming revenue is quite high, but there's a little more to it. The COVID pandemic of 2020 and 2021 forced people to stay home more than they would under normal circumstances. Gaming being one of the easier and, dare to say, best hobbies to pull off in home environment, resulted in a huge boost in the gaming industry. See, that makes sense, I guess. You know, that spike of interest towards gaming prompted companies to go all in. So like I was saying before, you know, they went all in, capitalized on the unusual circumstances as much as possible, while that while that works splendidly in the short term, it was never going to be sustainable in the long term. Yeah, I do get that, because people are living at home. But then you think, is the entertainment industry really recession proof? Is it? But I guess this is a unusual circumstance, right? Because of the pandemic. Then there was a high hiring spree going on. So the theory goes that gaming companies benefited greatly during the pandemic, assumed the vastly increased revenue stream would continue after the world returned to its relatively normal state. Turns out you can't apply emergency logic to regular circumstances. Revenues have gone down and adjustments have been made. Unfortunately for some people, it's usually those at the foot of the food chain that bite the last bullet, hence why thousands of game developers lost their job within the last year or so. Again, I would link this back to, well, why don't you help them? I mean, I'm sure they got compensated, but they could sustain them for a bit longer, I just think that, especially when you have families and stuff, it's horrible. There are more factors at play, such as general economic crisis that spread worldwide these past couple of years, as well as the industry-specific issues like poor game sales and overblown budgets. These all play a role, but by themselves, they cannot lead the industry-wide crisis, because economic instability, poor resource management, and disappointing game launches have always been there. See, that's a good point too. These are potential threats you simply accept at this point. So they're kind of countering it by saying, these are all roles that have to be played, right? The COVID and stuff like that. But by themselves, they cannot lead to an industry-wide crisis because of economic stability, poor resource management. The outlier is a pandemic that ballooned the gaming industry beyond its realistic measures or measurements, which then led to an unrealistic revenue projection. Once those proved unsustainable, the casualties started falling like trees. It's only unfortunate that shareholders' dreams resulted in thousands of game developers' nightmares. So that's a good article to Imaginary. This is .esports. I'll put this on the link as well. Paramount, 800 people to lose their jobs at Paramount, I'm going through this article this is very similar, isn't it? And what's it saying? There's a comment here which says, the US animation industry is adopting a ruthless Jack Welch type business model. This always ends in disaster, as evident on what is going on at Boeing. So again, it's also other industries. I know we're all attuned to games, but other industries are going to it too. But the Paramount layoffs, as it says here, last reported the compensation package was $32 million in 2022. It has been widely reported that 800 people will be impacted by layoffs, representing 3% of the company's 24,500 people workforce. So this also includes Paramount Global operates numerous broadcasting channels such as Nickelodeon, MTV, Comedy Central, as well as Paramount Film Studios. So what else do we have? I've got another article here on Saudi Arabia. They bought a business with esports, but that's a different one, isn't it? EA further to lay off 670 employees following its decision to cut 6% of its workforce, as it moves away from licensed IP towards owned IP sports and massive online communities. And this one, okay, so I have this government, the Federal Trade Commission writes to notify the court of Microsoft publicly reported plan to eliminate 1,900 jobs in the video game industry. The newly revealed information contradicts Microsoft's representation in this proceeding, which seeks to temporarily pause Microsoft's acquisition of Activision pending the FTC evaluation of the merger antitrust merits. So Microsoft represents to this court that the post-merger company will be structured and operated in a way that would readily enable Microsoft to divest any or all of Activision businesses as remote market participants in the unlikely event that such a divestiture is ordered. Further, Microsoft argued that the principal public equity that would not be served by an injunction to maintain the pre-merger status quo is not implicated by Microsoft's vertical acquisition of Activision. While Microsoft intends to operate at a limited integration studio, Microsoft claims that public equity favoring an injunction is more acutely implicated in horizontal mergers, while competing entities integrate their operations and in the process of often eliminate redundancies. Okay, now this is the bit, yeah? Microsoft recently reported plan to eliminate 1,900 of its video games division, including in its newly acquired Activision unit contradicts the foregoing representations it made to the court. Specifically, Microsoft reportedly has stated that the layoffs were part of an execution plan that would reduce areas of overlap between Microsoft and Activision, which is inconsistent with Microsoft's suggestion to the court that the two companies would operate independently post-merger. So if you're working separately, why would you want to lay people off, right? So they're contradicting themselves. Now, I don't know where this court case is going. This is just a letter I saw on LinkedIn. Can't remember who posted it. Someone posted this, but yeah, so this is interesting. Let's see where this goes. Okay, so, and there's also some other ones. All right, then you also got Sony layoffs. There were 900 employees at Sony. You know, I used to work in Soho, and I used to see this Sony Music and that building on Great Marlborough Street. I used to work at Clear, and I did some running at The Mill and The Rushes and some other companies there, where some of them are still around, some of them aren't. But I used to see that building, the Sony building, is massive, and it's a shame it's closing down. All of it's gone. Started in 2005 or something, or 2002, that studio. So it was there for a while. But slowly we're seeing this. Liverpool studio closed down, Cambridge studio closed down, and now London is. And I have some friends at Firesprite. He's still there, you know. He's a rigging guy. He's still there. So, but a lot of people lost their jobs. So, but yeah, that's the articles and the research I've seen so far on it. And in conclusion, there's a video I want to show you guys. I'll do that after my conclusion. But Ralph Bakshi talked about, you know, he basically said, you know, I was at that 2008 Comic-Con where Ralph Bakshi was there. I was at that talk. It's on YouTube. And what I'll do, I'll play it now actually. Hey guys, let's check this out. So I was at this, I was in San Diego in 2007 to 2010. Can't believe someone had this. So basically he's at this talk, and this is the question.
The collapse of...
So this is a perfect time in this video because he's talking about the uncertainty of the industry. So check this out.
Of theatrical animation. Terry Toons, Paramount, the studios fell apart.
Right.
That whole system fell apart.
Right.
That must have been terrifying for the old timers that have been there for 30, 40 years.
Yes, it was.
How did you change the way you thought about how cartoons were made to be able to weather that storm and go on and create something else? Because right now we're kind of facing a similar position with television and theatrical.
The kind of guy I am, because the kind of way I grew up, I'm a corny guy. And the things I believe in, the ninth inning home runs, I saw Bobby Thompson beat the Brooklyn Dodgers in the pennant one year. He had a home run in the ninth inning with 2 outs. And we also had a 3-foot ride. I came into this business that was falling apart. My mother says, small mover. I came into this, I was married, I had a kid, and the business crumbled. And typical Bakshi move. And what I searched for was what animation had never done. I kept believing that these things. I was bored to tears of what the guys were fighting to save. I didn't think what they were fighting to save was worth anything. I was sick and tired of Bugs Bunny at that point. It was great. I was sick and tired of the cartoons they were making. I didn't find what they were trying to save any reason to save. You know, but it was done over and over and over and over again. And it was tiring and boring and nothing new, like I said. So I immediately thought that anything different would get people excited. You know, the thing is, if you have a different product, people will start buying it. So I started to think about what I hated about the cartoons I'm looking at and why the studios should close down. In other words, there's no reason to keep stuff open that's boring. In other words, why do you need another Terry Toons with a cat chasing the mouse in 1956? I mean, why do you need it? So unless you're doing something else, it has to go. And I believe that today too. So today, with the machine and the equipment, so I worked very hard to change the business, break down Disney's bullshit, if you call the expression. The thing I fought very hard was Disney, who said you can only do it this way, you only need the best animators, you only need a million pencil tests to do something right, you only need the best voice recordings in the world, you only need the most money in the world. That's what would paralyze most of the industry. In other words, Disney paralyzed the guys by saying, unless you had all of this, you were nothing. And they bought into it. All the animators bought into it. I said, the hell with that. I don't care if the animation's good or bad. I said, I'm just going to animate and try to make the story better, which I did. That's all I did. So I took Disney on because he locked the top.
That was amazing, isn't it? I don't care if the animation is good or bad. I made the story good. I concentrated on the story, and it worked. So back then, Disney had this thing where if you don't do it our way, it's not good. It's rubbish. So, but let's carry on this. Yeah.
By the hands of the industry for so many years, saying you guys are nothing unless you have the 9 old men doing something over 1 million times at 2 feet a week. Irv Spencer did great animation 40 feet a week, every week. So did Manny Perez. So what I'm saying is, you guys are sitting today with the world in your hands. Entire studios are in one box. Bakshi Productions, ink and paint department, lack of special effects, Xeroxing, hand inking, coloring is all done in a box. Everyone here can make their own. 4 guys can get together and make their own movie in a year. Nobody does except Bill Clinton. What I'm saying is, you guys, that's what I would do if I was young. I wouldn't even get a job. I'd get a couple of computers and a bunch of guys. We eat crap for a year. We'd be millionaires the next year if we did a good job. It's so extraordinary. You sit there crying and like getting a job at Disney or things are falling apart. The same thing the old animators were doing when I was a kid. It's all crumbling. It's not crumbling. You're crumbling. You got these computers that can do this stuff for nothing. And what do you do with it? You try to get a job for some asshole studio.
This talk, I remember this talk. It really hit me. And I use this example whenever I was giving talks at university. I'd always use this example, you know. I would always say to the students, look, there's all these classrooms that are vacant, you know, there's no one using it. I even say to the lecturer, why don't 4 or 5 of you get together, get a computer and start making a little department, get someone from each department, a concept art, animation, environment art, programmer, engine programmer, gameplay programmer, one of each, get into the room at uni. If any of you guys are at uni now, do that. Tell the department, look, order us 7 computers. They got the money, they got the budget. Universities make a lot of money, they can do it. Or they can get the computers from somewhere else and do your own thing. You know, it will work. You know, especially when you're young and you're hungry, you know, get in and on top of that, you can also, the idea is to get a good demo done, especially in video games. Or even film, you know, you get a little, like they do have like pilots, get a demo done and you can pitch it, or even better, you can put it on crowdfunding or Kickstarter. There's a company at the moment, Cloud Imperium. They raised about, I believe it was about over 100 million for their game when they put it on crowdfunding. So, you know, people are willing to invest in you if the product is good, man. If that demo is good, people will be inspired and they want to see the finished product. So this, again, I'll just play this again. So
6 or 8 animators get together, get a couple of machines, and do a stupid picture. I mean, what's stopping you from doing it? What is it that stops you guys from writing and directing?
It's the fear, isn't it? People have this fear. I was younger. I don't have it now, but back then I did. And you know, even with like going back, like I've started my Yogi Kid, right? You'll see animations. I'm doing some Yogi Kid stuff. So you guys have got it. You know, you guys who are coming into the industry now, listen to this guy, man. He's saying, you know, you can't really depend on other people. You know, depend on yourself and your vision.
And animating something, and inking and painting and shooting it and doing the backgrounds on the computer, dirt cheap, which I'm doing in Last Days of Cody. The 4 guys from Last Days of Cody album. The whole picture's gonna cost me $500,000. It's gonna look better than Coonskin. Why? The machine's doing it. I don't have laboratory course. I don't have editing course. I don't have OPEC sitting demanding raises. I'm not buying coffee for everyone. I got Johnny for Solutions not eating pizza at $1,000 a week in my studio. I got the entire Bakshi.
Anyway, I'll leave this link. This is a very good video. I'll leave this link as well, along with all the other articles. that I've put in yet. So I'll leave that for you. So guys, that's I guess in conclusion, I've written some notes, in conclusion to what you guys might be thinking. So to my thoughts, I just wrote some notes. I can kind of find when I write my thoughts down, they're a bit more clearer, but I'll read these out to you, or what I think about the industry at the moment. So in conclusion, I think that 2024 will be turbulent. I think more layoffs are coming. I spoke to some people in the agency, and I think maybe they were saying that maybe in May time, summer, it might pick up, or 2025 looks a bit better. But what I've noticed is with these layoffs that there are still companies open to more positions, and people are always looking for talent, which is a good thing. I think for graduates, it's a little bit harder because at the moment, because of these layoffs, most studios are hiring people with experience. But, when I think about these times, I think about when I graduated from my master's in 2005. I moved home with my mum and dad. I had to move back to my parents' place, and I was working at home for about just under a year before I got a job. So these things, in these times where you feel like, it's a bit hopeless, there's not a job, just think about the free time you have to perfect your craft, to working on your craft, to hone your craft. You got all this time, and with animation, you just got to keep on learning. There's loads of mentors and YouTube videos out there and courses that are from professionals that are teaching you. So go to them. More people aren't going to uni as much now because they want to learn off professionals. So use that time to really hone in your craft. Practice. That's what I did for 9 months when I went home with my parents. I practiced, I worked on my short film. I was doing environment art, texturing, and then after 9 months, I got a job with Ninja Theory as an environment artist. That was my first job. I wanted to come as an animator, but I had to accept the fact that back then I wasn't good enough. But the art director was very honest with me. He said, look, come in for 6 months and we put you in with a designer to do placeholder animations for gameplay. And he stuck to his word, and then I became a junior animator. So even if the interviewers recognize you have a skill in another area, go get into the industry that way. Once you're in, then you can branch out and do animation or concept art or whatever you want to do. But the main thing is you're in the industry. There's all this talk about AI, and people are worried about AI, but I think deep down, nothing can really take the place of true creativity that comes from you, from your experience, from my experience. That's something that AI can mimic, but is it going to be original? Copyright is an issue, right? You got AI drawing from all these artists all over the net, and it's creating its own thing. But where's the copyright in that? And there's talks of this idea of mimicking. All these prompters are prompting similar stuff. It's going to be a similar style, similar art style, similar animation. Is there actually originality left? So what you're bringing to the table with your experience is completely unique. And I remember this. There's a rapper in the UK. A famous rapper by the name of Low Key, and he says in one of his tracks, you may take my life, but you can't take my soul. And what he means there, he says a line where he says, whether I'm number 1, number 2, or number 3, I'm unique, and there'll never be another me, and there'll never be another you. So be proud of who you are. Don't copy what the others do. So I always draw back to that too. You are unique. And think about, going on a kind of philosophical thinking, you could say, think about all the people that have come on this earth, come and gone for the last 16 billion years. They've come in, they've checked in, paid their dues, checked out, right? Now think about all the people that came and had all their unique stories. And, each one of those stories is unique. The very fingerprints they had will never be replicated. It's just, thinking of it in that way as well. You could, a lot of people are worried about AI, that AI might take over jobs. What would I say to that? Well, like I said, as I've written on here, when I was living in San Diego, I was privileged to go to Comic-Con every year. And then obviously that clip I just showed you, which I've got on my notes here, but I've showed you that clip of Ralph Bakshi, and he had a very good point. He did have a very good point. Why don't 4 or 5 of you get together? I wish I did it earlier too. 4 or 5 of you get together and do the work and take a gamble. If you believe in an idea, really 100%, and you go for it, and everyone's on a similar page, trust that idea, do it 100%, and don't worry about the outcome yet. Worry about the process. And at least you know when you look back, you did it, you tried it. So like I said in talks, in university talks, I would use that as an example and said, get these empty rooms and get 4 or 5 computers in there. And after the talk, students would come up to me and be inspired. And that's what it's all about. You know, they get all pumped up and they said, I really like your suggestion. They did that. I said, don't thank me, thank Ralph. I got it from his video. And then, like I mentioned earlier, you know, the aim of those empty rooms and the groups is to get that demo reel made, right? That you can show, that you can get to Kickstarter crowdfunding, get your funding. I'll give you an example of Ninja Theory, you know, 15 years ago, more than 15 years ago now, they created a demo for Heavenly Sword. They got approached by a lot of big companies. They refused. They wanted to stay independent. 15 years later, after that great track record of, like, you know, they had, what did they have? Enslaved. They had Devil May Cry. Heavenly Sword was the first one, Hellblade, and then Microsoft bought them out. So as a 10-15 year investment, you know, students starting at university, 10-15 years, staying together, having a good track record of making games, you will get bought out by Sony or Microsoft. One of them will buy you out and then you're sorted, you know? So you stay true to your vision. And then finally, I guess the idea of having a business as well is at the end you sell it as well, you know? So once you get that demo reel, show it, put it on crowdfunding, Kickstarter. There's always an audience out there that will be interested in your idea. Or alternatively, you know, you could learn all this art, animation, concept art, everything, and start your own Instagram or YouTube channel and just do your own animation. Do what you want to do. It's a longer road, but it's a more surer road than the shortcut. So stick with it with patience and you could go that route. There's so many routes, as Ralph was saying, there's so many routes you can go now to do your own thing as well. Anyway, I've just given my opinion about the current situation and I hope it shows it at a different angle. So I guess in conclusion, I would say your story matters and go out and tell it. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video.